Hello to all of my wonderful friends in India. Absolutely one of my favorite countries to visit. I love the people and especially I love the food. So I hope to visit you again very soon. You know, I just am so thrilled to be part of this marketing leadership conference. And I think the theme of this conference, Marketing in the New Normal, is so relevant to what I want to talk to you about today. You know, like many people, when the pandemic started, I was sort of shut down. I got off the road, had a lot more time on my hands, and I thought, well, this will be the time that I work out and I get fit, or I write that book that I was thinking about. But it turns out that I spent a lot of time just fighting for my next breath. I got the virus. My wife got the virus. I'm happy to say that we're both fine. We recovered and we're both back to work and enjoying activities outside. But for a while, I was very, very sick. And it really recentered me and helped me reimagine what business was going to be like in this period when so many people are suffering. So let's talk about that today. Really, there are three different phases to this crisis. Unfortunately, for us here in America, and I know for you in India, you're still in the teeth of this crisis. It's not going to be over soon. I wish the end was in sight, but we still have to think about how to be marketers during the crisis. We have to think about what it means to be in marketing after the crisis. And as you can see here, there is some overlap. There's a transitional period that we need to talk about. And I know for many of you, this is a real period of anxiety because there's so much uncertainty. What's going to happen? What are things going to be like? When is this going to be over? And what I want to do today is give you a few things to think about, a few questions to work on in your teams to help take away some of that anxiety and some of that uncertainty. The first thing I want to mention, though, is that I think it's important for all of us to recognize that everyone we're working with is experiencing loss in some way. We have to recognize that in our customers. We have to recognize that in ourselves. We're all grieving in some way. And I know that's an unusual word because usually the word grief is associated with the loss of a loved one. But for many of us, we've lost the ability to go to our favorite sporting event, to go to a favorite restaurant, or to visit our relatives, or simply to be able to work in a quiet place without children crawling all over us because we're homeschooling. So a very important idea in this period is we need to listen. We need to take this time out to re-engage with our customers and find out what's going on. If you think you know what's going on with your customers right now, I challenge you to be sure and think again. Get out there, listen to people, call people, talk to your customers, see what's changing in their world. A friend of mine said that he thinks we are conditioning an entire generation. We're rewiring an entire generation because they've been so fearful for so long. They've been afraid for so long. It's going to permanently rewire a lot of consumer behaviors. Now, a model that I've been talking about in terms of marketing is what is commonly known as the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Something we learned about perhaps in our psychology classes at the university, and it's a very simple model that people really can't worry about higher level needs like self-actualization until they get the lower needs on the pyramid satisfied first. Am I going to have enough food to eat? Am I going to have clean air to breathe? Will I have enough money to have shelter, to have a roof over my head? And then people start to worry about their income and relationships. They don't want to be lonely. This is a very useful way to think about marketing, I think, today. So we can see in the economy that businesses that are serving the lower part of the pyramid are thriving right now. And so if you're in that kind of a business, food delivery, healthcare, anything that will help entertain people in their homes, it's time to double down. This is your time. Your business is doing great, and it's time to double down on your marketing. Now, if you're in a business that's at the top of the pyramid, like me, it's time to think about things differently. It's time to pivot and find out how can we be relevant at the bottom of the pyramid. Let me tell you about my own example. I'm a marketing consultant, and when this pandemic hit, right before it hit, my business was very successful. And when the pandemic hit, my customers called me and they said, "We love you, Mark, but our business is crashing. Our supply chain is a mess. We've lost half our customers. Our employees are getting sick. We want to work with you, but not right now." And that was the right decision. So I had to pivot. I had to find a way to be relevant in this same period. And I realized, I'm a teacher. Whether I'm speaking on a stage or consulting or blogging or delivering an episode of my podcast, The Marketing Companion, I'm always teaching, but the world needs me to teach something different right now. It needs me to nurture people and help people during this pandemic. And so that's what I tried to do. Another example, I have a friend who's a luxury real estate agent selling very high-end homes. As you can imagine, in the beginning of the pandemic, nobody was really buying those homes anymore. No one was visiting houses because they couldn't. They were locked into their homes. So she created this Facebook group to teach people how to sew masks. At the beginning of the pandemic, nobody could get enough masks. Doctors couldn't get enough masks. Hospitals couldn't get enough masks. So she started this group to teach people how to sew these masks effectively, how to get the right materials, and she was very successful. This was a thank you note from a hospital that was even outside her region. Now, she's never going to be famous in her life because of a house that she sold, but she became legendary in our community for going down to the bottom of the pyramid and serving people where they are right now. That is a key idea, I think, about marketing right now. One of my friends said, I think marketing, we should take half of our budget and just use it to help people. Maybe that's the best marketing we could ever have. Now, as I mentioned, there's this overlap period, and I want to mention that. We're still in the teeth of the pandemic, but eventually things are going to be getting back to normal. The research shows that it takes about 21 days for someone's behavior to turn into a habit. And for many of us, most of us, maybe all of us, we've been in this pandemic a lot longer than 21 days now. Some of these habits are going to become permanent. Others, we're going to need to be reminded that it's okay to be normal again. Marketing in this transition period will be a wake-up call to say, hey, it's okay to go on a vacation again. It's okay to come and visit us in our bank, as in a live person. It's okay to come to our movie theater. It's safe again. So this transitional period is going to be a lot about safety. Now, let's start talking about this period after the crisis that's causing so much anxiety and so much uncertainty. There are three big areas that I want to talk to you about. Three areas that we can study and begin to plan for after the crisis. What are the changes in customer needs and habits? the relevance of your core competencies, given some of these new habits. And then finally, disconnects in the selling model. But before we get into this, I want to ask a favor. We're going to be doing some work together as we consider these different questions. But a lot of the time, when people start to collect information, they dwell on the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario almost never happens. The best case scenario almost never happens. So as you have these discussions with your company, as you consider what might be happening in your marketplace, try to focus your efforts on the highest probability opportunities. And that will be where we can focus as we try to overcome this uncertainty. So let's look at this number one question. What are the changes in consumers' needs and habits that we need to consider now? Here are the questions that I would be thinking about, that I would be asking and studying with our internal teams. Number one, will spending patterns change? What are our customers' budgets going to look like? Have they been going into their savings to get through the pandemic? Have they been saving and putting off expenses? Have they had to change the way they save and spend? What about pent-up demand? Are people holding on to their money and they're going to buy more of your products later? Are they buying through new channels? We're learning that a lot of the economy during the pandemic is moving online. We're seeing tremendous new levels of e-commerce. Is that going to change? Is that going to stay the same? We talked about these new habits. Will these habits stick around, or will things go back to normal? I think in this period of crisis, there's also going to be a lot of opportunity. Can we help people in new ways? I think in the next 6 months, we're going to see more startups maybe than ever to meet these new needs. So are new competitors emerging? Are old competitors not going to make it? That's an opportunity for us as well. Let me give you an example of how some of these habits are changing. I want to give you an example from my own life. As I mentioned early on in the pandemic, my wife and I had the coronavirus. She got sick. She started feeling better. Then I started showing symptoms. So there was a period of about 50 days when we were sick or quarantined. We could not leave our house. We had stocked up on supplies, but we had no way to get fresh food, fresh vegetables. So we subscribed to this service called HelloFresh. They'll deliver boxes to your door with fresh vegetables, packages of meat to make recipes. Now, the pandemic's over, and we decided we like this. We're going to keep buying a few meals this way every week because it's convenient, it's low cost, and it's teaching us new recipes. Now, think about how amazing that is. We are spending a portion of our food budget through an entirely new channel we didn't even know existed in January. This is going to happen in millions of ways for our customers coming out of this pandemic. The second question we need to consider, as these customer habits are changing, are our strengths still relevant? Are our core competencies still relevant? Let me give you an example from my own experience. I am an educator at a big university in America called Rutgers University. It's in the New York City area. This is a picture of me with some of my students, one of my very favorite things to do. They're all holding one of my books there, Marketing Rebellion. So let's look at what is the competency of a university that has been built over centuries. They've really made it great to have an in-person learning experience. They've got beautiful facilities, beautiful buildings. I had to travel to teach my classes. So there were travel and hotel expenses. There were audiovisual setups in these classes. I was taught in this special program where we had to have meals for the students. And most important, I think, a benefit of the program is live collaboration. Some of the best discussions with the students happened before class or after class or at the breaks. Now, what's happening today? To be effective today, it's all online. All the education is online today. To be a great university, you have to master new technology. You have to have amazing IT support. And somehow, we've got to figure out, how do we collaborate online? We don't have these breaks anymore. We don't have these meetings after class. When people are through with these sessions, they just leave. So many great ideas and innovations come out of random conversations. This thing called serendipity, where you're just meeting somebody and talking to them at lunch and you get this spark. That's all gone. How do we reproduce this in this new environment? Finally, what are the disconnects in our selling model today? One of the last speeches I gave here in America before the pandemic hit and everything was shut down was to this big group of university administrators in California. There were several thousand people there. And one of the things I always enjoy doing when I go to a conference is go to the trade show and to meet some of the businesses that serve these people. And the last event I went to, I talked to some of these people in the trade show and I said, I'm just curious, how much of your business do you get at this trade show? And the man said to me, all of it. This is where we get all of our business. We come to these trade shows, we see our customers, we show them what's new, and we sign our annual contracts. The whole selling model is gone for that kind of a business. I saw this ad on LinkedIn. I thought it was interesting. Event canceled? Help save your pipeline with the Dun & Bradstreet buyer intent. Now, I'm not advocating Dun & Bradstreet. I don't know what this product is, but I think it's interesting that Dun & Bradstreet recognizes that our sales and marketing models are disappearing and we need some other solutions. So these are the questions we should be asking our teams during this period. Is our sales and marketing process still viable? Where are our customers going to gather now? If we can't see them in meetings, if we can't see them at events and conferences, are they gathering someplace new, online or offline? How do we become part of that community? How do we become welcomed there? How do we even become a leader in that community? How do we demonstrate our value if we can't do it in the old ways? How do we switch to an online model? And finally, how do we compassionately maintain relationships and build new ones? And I think this last question is very, very important. What is marketing about? What's great branding about? Great branding means that we're building an emotional connection between what we do and our customers and our clients and our audience. That's what great marketing is about. And this is an amazing time during this crisis to show up in our customers' lives, our customers who are suffering in so many ways, and do something meaningful that makes us not just remembered, but makes us legendary. I'd like to tell you a story about how I saw this happen in my own life. Before I started my own business, I worked for a company called Alcoa. Back then, Alcoa was a Fortune 100 company. It's been split up into pieces since then. It was a Dow Jones Industrial company, one of the best managed companies, one of the most respected companies in the world. And early in my career with Alcoa, I was a sales leader. And we were really hurting one of our customers in the American city of Philadelphia. Our quality was so bad, we were shutting them down. So I flew to Philadelphia to meet with the president of this company. And over lunch, I said to him, I really appreciate your loyalty, but I just don't understand. We're hurting your company so bad. Why do you keep buying from us? Why don't you buy from our competitors? And he said, well, let me explain why. This company was started by my father. And during World War II, our company became irrelevant. The products that we were making, we needed to pivot. We needed to create products for the war effort. But we didn't have the money, we didn't have the equipment, and we didn't have the technological know-how to make that change. Alcoa came in and financed new equipment. They helped us find the machinery we needed to make these war-related products. And they gave us the technical know-how so that we could succeed and fight to the other side. And he told me, on my father's deathbed, he said, never leave Alcoa. They brought us to the dance. Alcoa did something for its customer. It showed up in a way for its customer that made it legendary. It didn't just say, we're with you. Can we lend a hand? They were the hand. They helped this customer survive. And that's the opportunity we all have in this pandemic, is to lead with our hearts and really help our customers who are suffering and show up in a way that makes us legendary. Thank you so much. It's been such an honor to be invited to speak to your leadership conference. Please have me back soon so I can visit all my wonderful friends in India and come back and taste some of that amazing food that I enjoy. You can keep in touch with me and learn more about my blog, my podcast, and my books at businessesgrow.com. Thank you so much and have a great event.